Hey, it's your boy Easy, and on today's episode of Easy Opens, we're going to be taking a look at the Neca Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Mirage Comics Fugitoid figure. Oh, do you hear that, Fugitoid? I think the cops. I think they found us. Oh, let's go. The Fugitoid first appeared in Gobbledygook #1 from 1984. They are the first co-creation of Kevin Eastman and Peter Laird. Fugitoid is a humanoid robot alien hybrid from the planet Dahunib of the Federation territory that has the body of a robot named Sal and the mind consciousness of his creator, Professor Honeycutt. And then their first run-in with the TMNT was in Mirage Comics Volume 1, Issue 5 from October 1985. So the box art looks great. Neca always does a fantastic job with their comic box art, and this is no different. But let's go ahead and get this figure free from its plastic prison and see what we think about Fugitoid. So I'm very excited about this figure. I love Fugitoid in almost every incarnation of the character. And this is an excellent representation of his first appearance in the Mirage comics. And he just looks fantastic. He's got this excellent paint job on him that makes him look shiny, but like also like in the comic kind of way that is in line with the rest of this line of action figures. So like he will go well standing next to the Utrom android body because they have a similar shine paint job aesthetic to them that just creates cohesiveness, but also makes it look like it's, you know, in 3D, because it is. And so I think they did a fantastic job on the paint job here. It just looks so good. And his face sculpt and paint is just priceless to me. I love his befuddled look, just constantly like in a state of worry and concern and just wide-eyed, and his mouth is agape. Like it's fantastic. And then if you look at it in a certain light, it does kind of look like he's got a little bit of a mustache and a goatee, and that's obviously just some shadowing that they put on the figure, but I like to think that it might be, you know, a grizzled Fugitoid that's been on the run for quite some time and has somehow managed to grow hair follicles. But it's not distracting, but it could also be one of those things that once you see it, you can't unsee it, so I apologize for that. But nevertheless, still pretty fun. And yeah, this figure feels excellent. It's got some nice heft to him, and just the paint job looks excellent. And just, I don't know, I'm just very happy with what they've done with this figure and this character design and all of that, and bringing it to life in plastic form. I just think they did a fantastic job. Now, I will say I was not expecting the bendy arms. For some reason, with a lot of these action figures lately, I've just not been paying attention to whether or not they have bendy arms or not. So the bendy arms and legs are kind of weird for me, because I'm not usually the biggest fan of those, because my brain instantly thinks that, oh, that's not going to last very long. And yeah, I get kind of nervous about it, and so I don't really want to bend them too much. But it's neat that you can, I guess. And it's fun for those who want that, but I think it looks good for just being what it is. Although I would have rather probably just have had them stay kind of straight, I guess, and maybe put like a hinge in there. But I'm not an action figure designer. What do I know? Maybe it would have looked like garbage if they had done that. But nevertheless, still very happy with the look and the feel of this figure, and he just looks great, and I'm very happy to finally have him in my collection. So Fugitoid comes with 6 interchangeable hands, 2 handguns, 1 laser rifle, a restraint thing, if I'm not mistaken, a Triceraton laser blaster, and the anti-gravity gauntlet.
All right, well, now let's talk about the articulation that you're going to get out of Professor Honeycutt, which he does not look very thrilled to be going through this experience. And I did call him Honeycutt, but the Fugitoid, whatever. He has many names. So starting in the head, got 360 at the neck. He can look up an okay amount, pretty decent amount. He can look down a whole lot, which is awesome. And he's got a joint in the neck part of where the body is attached to the neck as well. So you got a lot of wiggle room there. 360 at the shoulder. Also, his limbs, his arms and legs are bendy, so you can get all kinds of motion and poses that way. But the hands are 360 because they can be swapped out, so it's just a peg that goes in there. And then the chest, let's see here. The chest, you get a little bit of wiggle room side to side, not much, but just a little bit. But forward and back motion is pretty decent. Back is not so bad, or is not so great, I should say, but forward motion is pretty good. And then I don't think you get any, I don't think there's any down there at the, I guess, the crotch, pelvic, waist area. It's kind of weird with this figure because he's obviously not like your normal NECA action figure, but yeah, still there's a lot of stuff here. Let me see. I'm trying to make sure I didn't forget anything, but yeah, no, the legs, you got 360 right here. You have to move the leg a little bit around to get that accomplished, but you can totally do it. And then again, it's a wire, like a bendy leg. So there's that. And if I'm not mistaken, that is all the articulation you're going to get out of the Fugitoid.
So I couldn't really find any concise information on the height and weight of Fugitoid. I would imagine that he's somewhere between 5 and 7 feet tall, somewhere in there. Like it might vary depending on who's drawing him, but he's probably more along the lines of 5 to 6 feet tall, if that. Somewhere, again, depending on who drew him. And given that he is a robot, he probably weighs a ton or just hundreds and hundreds of pounds. So there's that. However, this figure stands at 5 3/4 inches tall and weighs about 3 ounces. So now let's see how he measures up to some other figures you might have in your collection. Here he is with the Jada Toys Fei Long and SH Figuarts Kamen Rider Vice. Here he is with Hasbro's Marvel Legends Wolverine and the Masters of the Universe Classics Cobra Khan. Here he is with the Loyal Subjects Rocketeer and Jax Pacific's Agent Peely. Here he is with Storm Collectibles Sub-Zero and Figma's Kid Icarus. Here he is with NECA's Mirage Comics Splinter and the Return to New York Leonardo. Here he is with NECA's knockoff colored bandana Raphael and Super 7's Donatello. Here he is with the NECA 1987 animated series Irma and Shredder. Here he is with the NECA Mirage Comics Casey Jones and the 1987 animated series Casey Jones. Here he is with the McFarlane Batman 66 Lord Deathman and Hasbro's G.I. Joe Classified Bat figure. Here he is with Mattel's Masters of the Universe Classics Hoverbots and Star Wars Black IG-88. Here he is with Mattel's Masterverse Roboto and Hasbro's Megatron. And here he is with NECA's 1987 animated series Rex 1 and Metalhead. So I've always been a huge fan of Professor Honeycutt, the Fugitoid. I remember the Playmates toy from the 80s, 90s line, and I loved that figure. And then I've loved every figure that he's had ever since then. And I absolutely love his appearances in the comics. I think he was excellent in the Mirage run, and the IDW run has been excellent. And he's just a fun character that's just really weird. But I've said it earlier, but my favorite thing is the look on his face, his just dreaded, just mouth dropped, just like, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? Look, I absolutely love it. And I think he's a lot of fun as a character, and just, I don't know, I just really like him. And I think NECA did a fantastic job bringing this figure from page to plastic, and he's just par for the course for this comic line of action figures from NECA. And I can't get over how much they just actually nailed his look and design. He just looks so good, and I'm just so impressed with how they were able to pull it off. However, I do have to say that I'm still just not really a big fan of bendy limbs. I just don't think I ever will be, because I'm so apprehensive to like break them or have them mess up that I will rarely put them in any position to do that. It's almost as if like he doesn't have any articulation, which kind of sucks because, you know, you want to be able to play with your toys because that's what we do. But at the same time, I appreciate and understand why they made that decision and why they did what they did, because putting joints in these arms and legs would just make it look, I don't know, just not well. It'd break the sculpt up too much. So I get why they did it. It's just a personal thing for me that I just really wish they would have done something different, but I don't know what else different they could have done. But what they've done is still really good and it works really well. It's just my own personal preference that I don't tend to mess with bendy limbs. That being said, the articulation that's here outside of the bendy limbs is still decent. I mean, you can still get him into some fun poses and put him into some precarious situations if you need to. But I still am just apprehensive about the bendy limbs. And that's just, you know, unfortunate, but that's something I have to live with. And you might not have that same inclination, but nevertheless, the figure looks fantastic. He feels fantastic, and he goes so well with the comic line as he's supposed to. And he can also go with some of the other Turtles action figures that you got, I think pretty much with any of them. And because he'll just work. Maybe not the Super 7 ones because they're too tall, but pretty much any Turtles figure from NECA, I think you're going to be able to use him in any shots with, because he's got just enough of an animated look to him that I think he could work with the animated series line, but he will definitely go with really any comic line that you put him in from NECA. And that's awesome. All the accessories that he comes with are great. However, I will say that I unfortunately had a breakage on one of his hands trying to get him to hold something, and that really sucks. So I'm really glad that he comes with a bunch of hands that I can just, you know, pop that another one in. But you know, when you pay as much as you do for these figures, you kind of hope they, you know, stay together for at least a little while before they break. And so it's kind of unfortunate when you know, get them out to review them and stuff, and then they break like right away. I mean, I get that these things happen, but it's unfortunate. But thankfully we have spare hands. So, you know, there's that. But just be careful when you're trying to put some weapons in his hands, because you might have the same problem I did. And I really don't have any other complaints about this figure other than what I've said, which are just a personal preference with the bendy arms. Everything else is pretty fantastic. I mean, outside the broken hand, but you know, that's you know, not going to be every case, hopefully. He looks great, feels great, plays great, and I am just a huge fan of this character, and this figure is an excellent representation of that character, and I'm just super happy to have this version of the Fugitoid on my shelf. So if you're collecting the TMNT Mirage comics line from NECA, you're definitely going to want to pick up Fugitoid. He's integral to the storyline. He's just such a pivotal character and such a cool, wild character that's just always getting himself into some situation. And he's also the first Peter and Kevin joint creation. So there's that. If you're a fan of robotic action figures, then he'll fit right in on your robotic action figure shelf. If you're a fan of fugitive action figures, then, you know, his name is the Fugitoid. I mean, it's literally in his name. He was made for that shelf. Or if you're like me and you just want to have a whole shelf dedicated to characters who look completely dumbfounded and befuddled all the time, then you definitely want to pick up Fugitoid. All right, well, that's going to do it for me today. Thanks so much for watching. If you liked what you saw, hit the like button. If you want to see more from me, hit subscribe and let me know in the comments. Do you like the Fugitoid? Which incarnation is your favorite? And what do you think about bendy limbs? Let me know. And until then, else time.